How you guys doing today? Welcome to Vibe Talks. I'm glad that you guys are here because this is going to be a great video, an epic video, really. Because the simple fact is we're going to be talking about something that is happening right now globally, which is called the Dark Night of the Soul. And what it happens is that it's the beginning process before Ascension. And it's one of the hardest parts of it all. And we're going to be talking about that, what that is, as well as how you can be able to get through it. And I'm going to have a special guest on. Her name is Kathleen Sherman, and she's a Reiki master as well as a shamanic medical intuitive. And we're going to have an interview. I'm going to show you guys an interview that we have done where we're going to explain about what that process is and how to get through it. And so this is going to wind up being a video that you're not going to want to miss. But after the video, stay tuned because there will be more on this video telling you everything there is about the Dark Night of the Soul and something that can definitely resonate with you because not a whole lot of people understand what this process is and how it affects you. But it's all normal and you are not alone. So stay tuned and watch the Dark Night of the Soul, and welcome to your Ascension. So, I bet when you had awakened, someone had winded up telling you that you would wind up going through something like a birthing process. No? Nobody told you? Well then I'm really glad that you're watching this video because I want you to have a better understanding in what you may be going through at this moment. It's called the birthing process of the soul. And just like any type of birthing process, it's different for everyone in regards to the experience itself. It can be incredibly uncomfortable and painful, or it can be smooth with little discomfort. And just like any type of birthing process, it could be short or it can be long and drawn out for many months or even years for that matter for some people. We wind up entering this process at different levels and at different points in our life, and either way, this is your rebirth process of your soul. This is the hardest part of the journey, and after you come out of this process of the birth, you'll wind up feeling like a different person with more clarity. You'll feel lighter, hence the rebirth. So when I talk about the Dark Night of the Soul, think of the darkness as a void, a symbolic womb, if you will, from which you will be reborn to a higher and more spiritually aligned consciousness, a new self. So when you wind up becoming physically born, you wind up going through a painful physical transformation into the material world. With the Dark Night of the Soul, you're going through a spiritual transformation before you can wind up seeing the light of the higher consciousness. Now, it is important to understand that some have struggled and are struggling to this day through this process. This is why so many light workers and spiritual guides have been waiting to help you through this. However, it is you that has to ask. It is you that has to seek for assistance. Yet it is important to know that you're not alone. You see, this transformation is painful for some people. It's because of the driving force behind the stage of the dark journey. It's a process of the ego death. And this is the death that must happen so that your soul can be reawakened. And to be honest with you, the process of the Dark Night is equally as complicated as it is simplistic. It's because that we have to embrace the darkness to wind up finding the light. And for many of us, we have had to experience great loss so we can wind up gaining everything. Many people don't understand this process. And when they went through this process, they had wind up seeking help from a psychiatrist. It's because you wind up feeling this moment of depression. So you don't really know what's going on. So instead of finding out with what is going on, you become wrongly diagnosed with depression, and you're oftentimes given medication. Sound familiar? The thing is about it is that the problem is not in your head, it's in your soul. Your situation is not like a biological malady. It is happening because you're going through a process of an incredibly painful spiritual transformation. I know. I totally get it. The dark night of the soul sounds like a threatening and much avoided experience. Yet, perhaps a quarter of the seekers that are on this road to higher consciousness will wind up passing through the dark night. And in fact, it's been known that one may wind up passing through like a couple to several times until they wind up experiencing that profound joy of their true nature. Again, everyone's birthing process is different from each other. So the dark night in itself winds up occurring after like considerable advancement towards higher consciousness. Indeed, the dark night usually occurs like an initiation before one winds up being admitted into the regular relationship within the higher consciousness. The dark night is also experienced to those who don't seek a relationship but are seeking immersion or even unity into higher consciousness. The dark night is a spiritual moment when you wind up feeling alone, but I'm here to tell you, you're not. So the dark night of the soul is more or less a concept. It's a concept that has been much discussed for millennia, so it's not anything new at all. It's been typically associated with the poem written by St. John of the Cross. He references the sort of spiritual depression or even a detox that someone has to go through to wind up waking up. But if you're experiencing it and you don't even know what's happening, it could be really scary. It could be a moment where you're confused because you feel like you should be happy right now. You see, that's the thing about the dark night of the soul. It usually comes right in the moment when you have every reason to be content. The situation we have all experienced globally right now or had gone through starting at the end of 2019 in China, then within the first quarter of 2020. This process of what we're all going through is the dark night of the soul that is now being experienced globally, which is it's the energy that is contributed from the situation that everyone is experiencing this anxiety and deep-seated fear. This will wind up ushering the biggest spiritual awakening transformation ever seen or even experienced. What is happening is that you're seeing how the external things didn't heal you. Your illusions about what really matters are breaking down. It's because the part of you that is still chasing outside things to make you happy is dying. And once it does, you can begin to actually do things that make you feel whole. Many of us who has winded up traveling through the dark night of the soul wind up having like purge symptoms. And for some, this is an actual like gagging motion. I mean, seriously, who wants to really get rid of things? Where this moment can wind up being a hard time or a hard situation for some people. For others, it's gravitating towards a healthier food, feeling unexplainable chills, happiness, or even lightness, wanting to sweat more, or even declutter their house, or even their social life for that matter. It's certainly a moment where we have the urge to spring clean out our life. So, let's pause this for a moment. I want you to take a look of an interview I did with a phenomenal woman by the name of Kathleen Sherman. She's a Reiki master and a shamanic medical intuitive. So let's listen to her wisdom and what the dark night of the soul process is for you now and how it was for us when we experienced this spiritual transformation. Jessica Johnson from Western Michigan, and I have my lovely friend Kathleen Sherman, and she is a shamanic medical intuitive. I met her at a psychic healing expo here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and she's also a master Reiki healer. And I invited her on here because she has some
profound insights on some awesome subjects. And trust me, get familiar with this face, because she will be on a lot of my shows giving her intake on a lot of different subjects, as well as the fantastic other people that she is introducing me to. So we're going to, today's subject, we're going to talk about the dark night of the soul. Now, this is important, okay, because this is the beginning part of Ascension. And once you get through this part, the rest of it is so much easier, and it's far more a better experience. But it's, you know, it's the dark night of the soul that a lot of people have a tendency of getting confused and everything else, because it's basically purging everything that you have within yourself, whether you realize it or not. So I'm going to have Kathy take it away and explain her aspect of what the dark night of the soul truly is.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming
on. Dark Night of the Soul is kind of the beginning of our awakening process. And when I was going through it, do you want me to tell you a little bit about my story?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I mean, great.
So, yeah. I had been going through my mother's death, and I was very close to her. And so I had always believed in psychics and mediums, had no idea that I had any psychic abilities. And going through this, I ended up, long story short, I ended up with some spiritual attachments and things like that, because I was having such a hard time, and I was sad, and I was just frustrated. And I got rid of those energetically without even knowing it. And so that was my first knowledge that I had some kind of abilities. And I started hearing spirit talk to me, and it just happened. And I this was the good thing, is I had some good teachers, and I had some good people to help me through it, because I was already learning about Reiki and learning about all those types of things. So I had somebody to lean on. And so when those things come in, it's just like turning on a switch. And all of a sudden I had a deceased friend up in my face talking to me, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, but I want everybody to know, it doesn't always come in the exact same way for everybody. It can be all different kinds of things. You can get just the knowledge that something's going to happen, or knowing, or seeing somebody that's deceased, or all different kinds of things, because we all have different abilities. Some people can travel, astral travel. Some people just know that they always just knew things, but didn't know how they knew things. And so all of a sudden, going through this dark night of the soul kind of brings all that to play. And then also it's about us going to those deep, dark places that we didn't know existed all of a sudden. I can see past lives, and I was thrust into seeing myself in past lives, going through traumas. And yeah, so I would all of a sudden something would start hurting in my body. This was my way of going through it. And I was like, what the heck's going on? And this is when I learned I can see people's past lives, and I can see my own. And they would show me a little video clip in my head of what happened. Now, you know, I'm just like sitting there going, okay, am I nuts? Like, what is all this? You know, it kind of makes you feel like you're crazy.
That moment when you're going, do I need to order a straitjacket from Amazon?
Yes.
I think I'm losing my mind, because none of this is logical. And you know, and that's the shocking part of it. And then you start coming, and then the emotions start flushing in. I know when I first started, when I went through my dark night of the soul, I thought I was going nuts. I thought I was going crazy. And, you know, and my wife can contest to that, because she was just like, Jesse, calm down. You know, I was like all over the place. My emotions were all over the place. I was, you know, nothing made logical sense. I've seen things that I could not, you know, explain in what we have been taught, or what we have been programmed to think we know. So, you know, so I went through all those emotions too. And I was thinking, hey, maybe I need to order a straitjacket from Amazon, because I think I'm like completely losing my mind.
Yeah.
So is that kind of like how you felt when you were starting to get these experiences of
It is.
yeah.
And I was really thankful. I have an awesome Reiki master teacher, Bonnie Bird. She's Battle Creek, but she's an amazing teacher. And
Awesome.
I had her, and I had my husband, who's very naturally just gifted. And I would come in and I go, I just saw myself being killed, and went through it all, feeling it. And it was tough. But once I learned, I just needed to release that from my energy field. And once I released it and kind of just brought in that light, bring in that light and ground myself, I felt 10 times better. One of the things that really opened me up was starting to hear and actually listening to my spirit guides. When I just blew that off before, and I got sick. A lot of times people will get sick because this is part of their not listening to their own guidance. And like I would drink a Diet Mountain Dew every day because I was exhausted. I was actually they wanted to diagnose me with fibromyalgia.
Oh, wow.
And and so I felt crappy, and I needed a healing. And so I remember just finally, I actually went to Callie Piper, came and did a read for me and told me I was a medical intuitive, because this was another thing. I just knew there was something I was supposed to do and I couldn't figure it out. And I needed a little help. Sometimes you need a little bit of help from other healers, other readers.
Exactly.
And this is part of the whole picture, is that we all lean on each other. We all get information from each other. And so that's how I've gotten where I've gotten so quickly.
And people bring clarity too, because it may be something that you didn't even think of. Because when you're going through that dark night of the soul, everything's clouded. It's kind of like one of those horses that had the blinders on.
Yes.
So you're not seeing everything clearly. Everything's a cloud. You're getting confused. You can't connect the dots appropriately, because then now your emotions are a part of this whole cluster. And so you're trying to sort everything out. And you do. I mean, I've had to look for help outside of myself because I couldn't understand what was going on,
Yes.
and that helped. Doing research helped, and then getting into a routine of meditation had helped drastically. But my experience in the dark night of the soul is that everything that I have done in this life and everything started to come to the surface, and I had to deal with it.
Yes.
And I had to deal and heal with the traumatic experiences that I had. And it was very hard. That was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And there was many times I cried at night that, I had to release that. I had to purge that out. But then after that was done, I had that moment where I had sat down with myself and looked at things in a different perspective. What did I learn through these experiences? What did I take from that? And that's when that moment of clarity comes after the whole dark night happens. You jump on the other side and you're just like, you look at things differently. It's not of, oh my God, I went through this. I feel so horrible and this and that and the other. You actually start to look at things differently, that you learn something from these harsh, these harsh life lessons. And just like what Kathleen said, is that you wind up, everybody is different in their dark night experience. And right now, currently what's going on is everybody globally is going through a dark night experience.
Most definitely.
So,
and they need to be lifted up and helped. And so that's why you have a whole bunch of us light workers who are out there, way showers, that have awakened before the mass have. And the masses are now going to be going through these things and wondering, what the heck's happening to me? Am I nuts? What's going on? And it's kind of like, this is one little thing. So I was in the kitchen, and this was one of the things that made me realize that there was something else going on. I was standing there and I thought something. I had a thought go through my head, and then something else came through my head, and I went, wait a minute, that wasn't my thought. Right. It was my guide. It was my spirit guide. It was my main spirit guide. His name's Franklin. Anyway, so those are the little things that'll happen where you'll get those little bits of information. And, also you want to pay attention to the fact that if it's something that's good that's coming to you, or if it's not something that's good that's coming to you. One thing I always tell people is when you start getting this information, just make sure that you ask that it's of the highest and best. You all have spirit guides, you have angels there, ancestors that are there for you, all kind of ascended masters that you can call on. And all you have to do is check in with them. They'll help you, your spirit guides, especially to begin with. But just make sure that you just say to them, I ask for only the highest best to come and work with me. That's really, really important for me. I want to make sure that I'm only working with the highest best, the ones that work in the light, basically. And so
and
that
goes
was one of
within
the
the
first
11 universal laws too, the law of will, the will of man, that when you basically say, oh, this is all I want, guess what? It will happen. Why? Because you put your will on there and your emotions push that out. You know, that's the engine that's pushing your intentions out. And you're saying, that's all I want to deal with is of the higher vibration. Because you got to understand, during that dark night of the soul, you're going to be exposed to different things. And that's the time where you're going to have the negative energy that's going to be like, come follow me, I have cookies and milk. And then you got the and then you got the positive that's also trying to calm you down and everything else. So once you set that intention and saying, I only want to deal with a higher vibrational, that's when it happens. Is that how it is for a lot of people that in your experience?
I think so. And I make sure that I tell each person that I do readings for and work with, I just say, you know, because I'll help people with their ascension process too. And so it's like the first thing I tell people, because there are all kinds of lower energies out there.
Yes.
They can, you know, and not to freak people out, but I mean, they can be in people's energy fields. They can be hanging around them. They don't have to be right in their energy field. They can be just hanging around them. They can come and go, be in a place that they live, whatever.
And your dreams.
Yeah, I had that as a child. Yep. But all of that was actually leaning me forward through my lifetime on that step ladder. They always show me a step ladder in my head where I was going up the step ladder on my ascension plan process, as to when I would get to when I could go up to the next step would be when I dealt with something. So I had stuff in my dreams too. I had night terrors when I was a kid, and I worked through that when I went through my dark night of the soul. It was, different kinds of attachments and things like that, that I had to work through. And I learned through that process that I am so much brighter, energy wise. Once I learned that I could brighten my energy, none of that stuff I was so much more powerful than anything of the dark, you know? And so that's when I learn to tap back into my inner badass that I didn't know existed, because I was always full of fear. I was scared to death. Like when I first started getting into this stuff, I was scared of tarot cards. Like, oh, those can be scary. No, they're just tools. It's what you put into everything that makes the biggest difference. So if you're going to put into something, that you're just working with, good intentions, for the earth, for everybody, for somebody else, that's what you're going to put out. That's what you're going to receive back to them.
Exactly.
So none of those things are evil. It's anything just needs to be brought into balance. And so that's what, this whole process is. It's about learning to purge all that other junk, and then eventually coming around to balancing yourself.
That is important, because, the thing is that we have to balance things. Everything in an energetic level is, theoretically is all balanced, and we have to learn to balance that within ourselves. And that's the whole lesson of the dark night of the soul. It's kind of like going through, it's a process. It's normal. A lot of people will feel lost. A lot of people will feel like they don't belong here on earth. And there's a lot of star seeds that feel that they look at the stars and they miss that place that they don't know is home, but they know it's out there somewhere. And there's a lot of people who go through these processes differently. And, the balance is key. And that's why during this time, all that you have carried with you in this lifetime and the previous lifetimes are coming to the surface for you to deal with and to be able to look at things. But also too, it's great that you had mentioned about what we send out is what we get back. That's what I've been telling everybody. It's like a boomerang. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you send out is going to come back to you. So if you have positive, love and everything else, guess what? That's going to come back and it's going to manifest, 3 to 10 times fold. And the same with negative. And have you ever noticed that when you start to do what you're, the path that you feel is right for you, and you start to feel lighter and everything, all of a sudden people come into your life and cross paths with you that help not only assist you, but even further learn you and cultivate you. And that's the amazing thing is, because when I went through mine in 2015, I could tell you in the beginning, I was a wreck. Like I said, I thought I was going to have to get a straitjacket somewhere and everything. And it was that process, and the time, I want to stress that time is different for everybody. Some people will go through it more quicker than others. Some people will go through a slow process. For me, it took 2 years, about 2017, when I started to fully come around. And that's how long my process was, but it's different for everybody, but yeah, balance is definitely key. And I appreciate you mentioning that. Absolutely. Because I'm just like, I'm sitting here like stirring around in my seat going, yes.
Yay. And it is fun to talk about. And it is kind of rough to go through that dark night of the soul. But when you come through it, it's amazing. And you have to keep persevering and keep looking to the positive. It's that law of attraction. Imagine that there's a dial. This is what I tell people. Imagine that there's a dial of negative to positive. And if you're on that negative, because it's really easy, especially with what's going on in the world right now, it's really easy. I've had to bring myself back, do a little meditation, go, no.
Same here.
I need to release all this crap, because even with us, it's hard for us to not get sucked into it. And to feel those horrible, those rough feelings that a lot of people are scared right now. And, we just want to lift them up with energy. And so if you can imagine this dial, from negative all the way to positive, if you can just dial that up a little bit, just bring up your energy a little bit. We can imagine our energy in dials. And this is the dial I want people to just kind of see, just raise their energy just a little bit. Think of, the brighter side, even if it's just a little tiny bit of something, oh, woe is me. Well, wait a minute. Maybe there would have been some, maybe if I had gone to this place, I would have gotten a car accident, and maybe there's a reason that things are the way that they are. So I mean, there's always something that you can bring your energy up with. And like I said, nobody's perfect. We all have these things that are hard to go through, and we have to learn how to go deep within ourselves. Meditation is key. Meditation and just grounding and connecting to everything that is what I do. And I kind of send energy out and send it back and breathe it back in. That's a way that I kind of connect. I connect to everything that is, and that really helps me out to reconnect and to release or shed. Another way people can do it is just imagine shedding. This is more shamanic. Imagine shedding that old skin. Just imagine shedding that. Just release that old skin that just goes into the earth, and just kind of like you're being reborn. So really, the dark night of the soul is a rebirth process.
Yes, it is.
It's a rebirth,
and we go through the labor pains. Think of when a mother is bringing a child into this earth. It's not a comfortable feeling. You're going through the pain, you're going through the whole birthing process and everything. And just like they teach you when you go to Lamaze class, breathe through it, breathe, exhale, and that's what you have to do, because you are, just as she said, going through a birthing process, and it's not pleasant, but at the end of it, when the mother is holding her new baby, guess what? Everything is rain, sunshine afterwards. And that's the hardest process you have to go through, because after you get through that process, everything is going to be more clear. You're going to have more of a different understanding of things. And this is the hardest part of your ascension. The hardest part. Once you get through that, there is nothing that can stop any of you. you know.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. What they're telling me to tell everybody is people are not alone. Nobody is alone. You always have spirit to guide you and to help
Mm-hmm.
you. And the darkest times when we feel the most alone is when we need to reach out to them and connect with them.
Yep.
And they're there 24/7 sitting right next to us.
Exactly.
When, you know, that's what Reiki healers, that's what we do. We connect with that energetic,
Mm-hmm.
we connect with the angels, and we connect with all of those things. And they help come in and help soothe our energies, help soothe
when
our
you ask
pain.
for it, though. You know,
Yes,
that's
if
the
you ask
thing.
for
You
it.
have to give, when you're asking, you're giving that spirit permission to help
Yes.
guide you through, because they do not
Yep.
violate the law of will. So
Yep.
you have to give consent, which is
Yes.
asking for that guidance. So that's
Yep.
that was an important thing that it was brought to me to mention too. You have to
Yep.
ask for it. It's not just
You do.
expecting it to happen, and
Yep.
and then, you know, lo and behold, you know, it happens. It doesn't
Mhm.
work that way. You have to give that permission and
Yes.
that consent to be, you know, to have that help by asking for it.
Or they can't.
Exactly. They can't, because they won't violate that law of will, which is the 11 universal principles. And,
Yep.
you know, so it's important to know. And you are not alone. And your spirit is correct about that. You are not alone. Also, too, there's a lot of people in the community, especially there's a lot more awakened people than ever that understand this. So reach out to people, and they can help you. You know, you can reach out to Kathleen, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to a whole barrage of people who are around us that have been through this and understand what you're going through to help you through this birthing process. And that is important. You guys are not alone. This is perfectly natural process. And what you're feeling, you know, it's not doom and gloom. This is just a growing process, because your spirit is growing, and you know, and it'll get a lot easier. So, you know, have faith, guys. Have faith, you know.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much, Kathleen.
You're
Kathleen,
welcome.
for, you know, coming on and giving us your take about this. And I'm just so excited. I'm just so happy to have you here.
Me too. Thank you.
And everything. and like I said, guys, remember this face, because you'll be seeing a lot of her in a lot of different subject matters, because she is extremely, very, very wise person. And I'm, you know, the conversations, it's just like we clicked immediately. The first conversation, it's just, she's just a beautiful soul altogether. So thank you guys for coming on, and think about it, you know, because we're going to be learning a lot more in the coming future with many other subject lines. And see you guys next time.
Did you go anywhere? Great, I'm glad you're here. So what I wanted to talk to you about is that I broke this subject line into 2 videos. This one that you had just watched is part 1, where we had talked about a little bit of a synopsis of what the dark night of the soul really means, and some of the ways and how you can cope with it, as well as me and my special guest I had on, Kathleen Sherman, had discussed what it was, our experience when we had went through it before. Now, the dark night of the soul is no laughing matter, because people actually do struggle with this process, as this is the hardest process that anyone has to go through. Now, what is happening is, even though we have a catalytic situation that had taken place, this catalytic situation had ushered in an ascension that is felt globally. So everyone who has not been through this process before is going through the dark night of the soul period now. Hence why we're feeling so much of the fear, the anxiety, all the feelings and emotions that are contribute to the situation. So it is quite overwhelming. Even us light workers are feeling it from our energetic fields that we have put up. The thing is that you're not alone. Technology is still available, so there is a way to get to find another light worker, or to get connected with groups of people who have a deep understanding in what you're going through. The thing is that this beginning process that you're dealing with in your ascension is the most important process, because it's being your spirit is being birthed. Your spirit is going through a transition where all the things that you have kept deep inside, whether you realize it or not, is coming to the surface for you to purge. Now, that's going to look differently for everyone, and people are going to come into this experience differently. As I stated, that people come into this process of the dark night of the soul at different levels and at different points of their life. So the thing is that know this, that you're not alone, and that there is many of us who are out here that is willing to help you get through this. Now, the second video, I will be talking more in depth of what the dark night of the soul is. Also, I had invited a friend of mine to talk about her experience and how she had went through her dark of the night of the soul and how she had flourished from it. And this woman is phenomenal. She's like a soul sister to me, and I have watched her grow from the point of the dark night of the soul to now, and it's just absolutely phenomenal, and it blows my mind. Now, I can tell you, at the end of this process, I couldn't even possibly put it in words. In my own personal journey, when I came out the other end of this, and I had to work through a lot of things, that's why it took me, a couple of years to get through it. But when I have, it's been so rewarding. I have met fascinating people that I feel like that I'm a child all over again, and I get excited sometimes when I talk to them, especially when it comes to certain subjects. The thing is that the people who have crossed my lives, my path, has helped me out in so many ways in getting me to understand myself and the things that, that I have learned about, but I didn't really grasp the concept of it. And it wasn't until my awakening that I did. And I thank those people who were there for me and it crossed my path during the time that I needed them the most. The thing is that after you get through the end of after you get through this process, that's when the magic starts to really happen. And for a lot of people, it comes differently, just as my guest had stated, Kathleen Sherman, that everyone has different experiences, but they're phenomenal. They're absolutely phenomenal. And I'm always amazed, like a child for the first time, seeing this or that and just, completely in awe. That's how it feels when you come to the other end of this. When the magic really starts to happen in your life. So I'm telling you that there is hope. It may feel, it may feel that dense energy, and it may feel like you're being, tied up, but you're not. Once you start to meditate and you start to connect, that it does take the fear and anxiety away. Trust me. I've had to do it, especially with this process, because of that energy that is now coming in through what's going on. But I'm also here to tell you there is many different people out there, and I have met so many blessed souls and beautiful people through my journey. And there are a lot more than what you think. So sometimes the best way to do things is to join a group. Being that we have to practice social distancing, there's tons of groups of awakened people on these social media platforms. So I'm here to tell you that we are here for you and that we understand what you're going through. So keep an eye on that second video. of the dark night of the soul. And I promise you, you will get through this, and it'll be an easier journey once you understand exactly what this process is all about. So if you like my video, please hit the subscribe button down below, so that way you can be notified when that second video comes out. And thank you again for your time and watching my video. Namaste.